Hello.
Equality means more than passing laws. The struggle is really won in the hearts and minds of the community where it really counts. That comes from Barbara Giddings. Y'all, welcome to Eli's Hour of Power, a podcast that deals with mental health and issues that plague our communities. Today's episode is dealing with homophobia and transphobia in the African American and LGBTQ communities. After the break, we'll get into it. This is Eli's Hour of Power, where we break chains and regain the power within us all. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
And if real is the issue, then they all artificial. And I can never diss you, but I will dismiss you straight to your face. Nah, I ain't got no manners, and these bros ain't got no standards. That's why he can't stand you. Always got your hand out for a handout. Can't stand on your own too. How you gonna stand out? I bet you missed the point. What a disappointment, like a missed appointment. Never indirect, but yo.
And we're back. So usually, guys, I give you guys a lesson of the week, and then I bring in my guest in. But today, I'm like, no, let's have the conversation right here, right now. This week, I have the creator of the Facebook Live series, Tara Talks, here with me. This is Tara. Say hey, everybody. Tara.
Hello.
Yes. Oh, Lord. So today, we're going to be talking about homophobia and transphobia. So some of y'all might be like, what is homophobia? What is transphobia? Well, I have the definitions for you right here. Homophobia means the dislike of or the prejudice of homosexual people. And transphobia means the intense dislike or prejudice of trans people. All right. So before we get into the homophobia and the transphobia, I want to talk about coming out. I'll give my story bullet points because, you can see the full thing on my YouTube channel, EDS Squad TV. But that's not a plug. But and then I will definitely ask you, when did you come out? How was the experience? And did you hate or have any resistance from others? For me, I came out when I was 24. It's weird because I think either I was turning 24 or I was 24. I just remember it was the summertime, it was hot or whatever. So basically, I always wanted to come out at the time. I was like, it was just more so the timing, because my family is very, they don't like to, for some weird reason, serious moments are not really had in the family like that. So when there's times when we do need to have the serious moment, they take it as like you're joking or you're playing around or it's not that serious, vice versa. So basically for me, I wanted to have my circle of people, and I wanted to have my parents' circle of people in the conversation. So if anything went wrong, I have my support system and they have their support system. And so for people that are maybe watching this and may want to come out and don't really know how or why, that's a good idea to have. Have a couple of friends that already know the situation and that are friends to you and will support you in this transition, because it is a transition. And then see if your parents have people that also are in our support systems and have a support system, and reach out to them and see if I can commingle and have a group conversation with each other. Shout out to my friend Christina. Shout out to my cousin Jamila. They definitely were support systems for me. And I just was like, ended up, saying it. And right after I said it, it was just like a huge burst of laughter. And I'm just like, I don't think I did a comedy skit or anything, But the laughter was, they already knew, and just like, it ended up being a positive experience. And I know a lot of people don't have that same experience or that same walk. So I try to be mindful of that when I am discussing my come out story, because I know everybody's situation is different. How was your situation when you came out? How was the experience?
I don't really think that mine was as stressful to a sense because it is very unfortunate, but men I feel like get a worse look or reaction. Um so I had a friend. I was at, a couple group of friends of mine, and it was a girl that I was very close with. And you know how it goes. You start hanging out with someone a little more, the red flags start looking orange, they start looking a little better, the jokes get a little funnier, and I don't know, my friend saw she liked me, I liked her. I was like, well, this is a little weird. I don't really know if this is right. Because growing up, you're not raised that way. And growing up in church, you don't, they make it clear that it's not what it's supposed to be. So I was like a little confused, like, all right, well, okay. But then, being a rebel and at the age of 15, I was like, well, I like what I like and this is that, and I'm going to do what I want to do. So, we started dressing alike more, everything became different. I went and I told my grandmother, who I was raised by, and she was not with it at all. Like, don't bring her back to my house. I don't hear nothing about it. You need to get yourself together, basically. Like, I don't know what you're doing or who you're hanging around. It's influencing you. And it was pretty difficult because I was like, this is my friend, but I didn't want to be disrespectful either. And I didn't want to have to deal with the havoc at home.
That's true. I feel you. It's true. And that just brings, me to this point right here that Black people tend to express more homophobic attitudes, but there's a link between education, religion, and homophobic attitudes. Education has an impact on homophobic attitudes and views of sexuality within the Black community. This follows a nationwide trend. More educated people are likely to be more accepting of non-heterosexual sexuality. Better education typically means less affiliation to conservative religions or denominations, which limits the influence of society, socially, and conservative ideas. Barack Obama acknowledged homophobia within the African American community and said, if we are honest with ourselves, we acknowledge that our own community has not always been true to Martin Luther King's vision of a beloved community. We have scorned our gay brothers and sisters instead of embracing them. Black advocacy groups disputed that homophobia is more prevalent in the African American community than any other groups, and says surveys reflect attitudes proportionate with the rest of the population. Let's give you a little bit of statistics. In 2012, a survey of 120,000 adults, African Americans were more likely to self-identify as LGBT than any other racial or ethnic groups in the United States. According to data, 4.6% of African Americans identify as LGBT, compared with the 3.4% of the population overall. In the recent years, we have seen many celebrities, African American, have came out, such as Jason Collins, Michael Sams, and news anchor Robin Roberts. The perceived bias against homosexuality in the African American community has led to the subculture phenomenon on the down low, in which Black men who identify as heterosexuals secretly having sex with men. The term is also used to refer to a sexual identity. So basically, in this is that homophobia is the biggest in the African American communities, and they all stem from education, lack of education. It was the lack of education, religion, and just having the homophobic attitude. Um, and it is true. The more education you do have, typically, I'm not gonna say everybody, because
Right.
there's always crabs in the basket. But for the most part, the people with more education, they don't typically follow organized religions. So they're more likely to have less conservative attitudes when it deals with homosexuality and homophobia.
Mhm.
And it's true in real life. A lot of people that are ignorant when it comes to gay people and trans people, they're not educated in it. They don't know nothing about it. They just know the stereotypes. They know the sayings and the all of that extra stuff, but they don't know. And it's starting to become more popular now in the African American community to start identifying as LGBT. It says that as of 2012, 4.6% of African Americans have identified as LGBT. And then, you see that in celebrities coming out, not in the droves, but you see that they're starting to be accepted in the entertainment industry. So they're starting to come out. We have athletes like Jason Collins and Michael Sams, and we have Robin Roberts. And those are just a few examples. And then we look at homosexuality, and we see that there's also a subdivision within the homosexuality, and that's DL, which we gonna get into later on, because we're gonna get into it, and we're gonna get into why y'all love these DL men, and we're gonna get into it all. But I just wanted to open it up with that we. And it's funny how I took shout out to Wikipedia and the Rainbow Project for this information, because it's funny how they word that this culture is a phenomenon. There's a reason why they call it a subculture phenomenon, and we'll get into that as well. But not only do we as African American LGBTQ people have to deal with the homophobia in the Black community, we also have to deal with the racism and prejudices within our community. Because let's keep it a buck, it's just not just Black gay people out here. There's white gay people, there's Spanish gay people, there's Asian gay people. So we also have to look at things within race and racism.
It's sad because that does have a lot to do and play a lot with mental health.
Most definitely.
On a Black community.
Most definitely. And all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to offend nobody, all I'm going to say is that everything is, even though we're gay people and we have our own community, a lot of the same ideologies when it comes to race and class and just how you were brought up in your households, they differ from other gay people. So there's gonna be other everybody ain't gonna get along. Every group ain't gonna be able to intermingle. So just because we're all gay doesn't mean we all are just out holding each other's hands, singing kumbaya in a circle. Like, no, we
in the community. There's a lot feuding with people like, well, I'm bisexual, so I shouldn't celebrate the same or be in the same pot, and that's not fair to many people.
That's true. That is definitely true. And I think what is going to help is we get more representation in society. And I'm loving how we have shows like Pose, and we have reality shows like RuPaul's Drag Race and stuff like that. That it shows different sides of the community. My first TV show that I was introduced, before we get into the next question, the first television show that I was introduced to this wacky world known as the LGBT community was Noah's Ark. And all my, Black gay boys of a certain age probably know about Noah's Ark, probably around my age or older, should know about Noah's Ark. It was on Logo, and just seeing different representations of gay men. Like there was one gay man who was more flamboyant. There was one that's more masculine. Like and then the show was amazing. It was ahead of its time. I hate what they did to it. Mm-hmm. And it just goes to show, like, we're getting better when it comes to representation, but we still got a long way to go.
Right.
Do that like when I don't really have gay friends, and that's just, we'll talk about that later in this podcast. But when I did have a gay friend, we never did the cis thing, because a lot of gay friends, when they're together, they especially the gay boys, they say cis and her and she and stuff like that. And I never, that's just
not like that. Is that?
It's like a term of endearment to another gay dude.
Okay.
Like, even though sometimes, a lot of the times, they're using it for shady. Like, I can't deal with her. She do the most. She be like, it depends. But I never been like that. Like, even the gay people friends I had, like, they knew we wanted to be addressed as men. And that's fine, and that's dandy. But I'm saying all of this to go into the Black church. Yeah, messy. So the African American church, also known as the Black church, is a central part of Black culture. The Black church is a combination of Protestant Christian denominations, including AME, which is African Methodist Episcopal Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, the National Baptist Convention, and the Church of God in Christ. This link between the church and Black culture was formed during slavery. Let's keep some bucks. The church provided spiritual support for slaves. Religiosity help keep slaves' morale high. I'm gonna have to read that back. The link between the church and Black culture was formed during slavery. The church provided spiritual support for slaves. Religiosity helped keep slaves' morale high. When they began to plan their escape from the plantations, codes conveying secret messages about their plans were embedded into worship songs. This history of the Black church and slaves has created an indelible bond between Black Americans and the church. The values preached in the Black church tend to be socially conservative, with the exclusion of ways the church addresses the homeless. In the home, so-called traditional family values prevail, maintaining a nuclear family with a man as the main provider and the woman as the staple of the house are the dominant values within the Black church. Homosexuality is seen as the only acceptable standard. Heterosexuality is seen as the only acceptable standard, while homosexuality is seen as condemnable by God.
Yeah, that's pretty deep. That's pretty serious.
So, to break it down in layman's terms, we have the Black church, and we have some denominations, the AMEs, the Baptists, and Church of God in Christ, COGIC. Yeah. And then we give a brief history of Black culture in the church. And it started as back in slavery. It was what the masters did to keep the slaves enslaved, not only physically, but mentally. And it kept the slaves' morale high. And when they began their plan for escapes, that's when songs were used to convey those messages. But the history between the Black church, to keep it a buck, has always been negative when it comes to gay people, gay things, gay anything gay, automatic chastising, automatic condemning, automatic you're just sent to hell. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. There's nothing in between. This is what it is. For me, I can remember growing up, because I grew up in the church. I just remember my pastors never really preached about gay people and gay things. Like that was literally the last thing on any of their minds when it comes to preaching and stuff like that. So I never was in a church where I heard, "Oh, you gays are going to hell." But when it came to home life, things would happen. Then me being a teenager and being curious, and I'm not into females by this time. Like, I already know who I am. Like, I can't outwardly express it because I'm still fearful of the people around me, but I know what I like at this point. And me expressing it in any shape or fashion, I couldn't do that outwardly, or I would get caught up because it would be, "Oh, we need to take you to the altar. Oh, yeah, you need prayer. Oh, you need help. Oh, it's a mental thing. Oh, you need And then when you're hearing this over and over, years and years, and then not only that, family, big cookouts, everybody, family, you know you're not like the other male cousins. You're not into sports like them. You're not, into the no shade to my cousins, love y'all to death. But you're not into the sleeping with all these different types of women and the conquest, and you're just me. I'm just not into that. So it was always a battle, like really trying to, because at that time I would say I was trying to keep a secret, but trying to keep it and trying to also get it out of my psyche, because I just think it's wrong. I think I shouldn't be thinking this way. I shouldn't be feeling this way. Like you fight with your mental every day. That's why it's very important for my LGBT brothers and sisters to really, once you come out and you accept yourself, and that's just only the beginning. Therapy is something I would recommend to any and everybody, because it definitely helps. It definitely works. Like, it's not an overnight success. You're not going to go to one session and be like, "I am fixed." No, but it is a process, but it's one of the most rewarding things that I personally have done in a while. But I'm saying all of this to say, why do you think homophobia and transphobia run rampant in the African American community?
That's crazy, because I was thinking about you, and I'm like, all I could think is that people are misformed, and like you said, church has a very, because religion is very heavy in the African community, and that's mainly what the Bible says it, and then that's what people believe. And that was my biggest thing. I'll never forget. I was talking to my friend when I just got with this my last partner. actually, it's my, excuse me, I got this nonsense in the back barking. But after, when I was younger, I dealt with that girl and I was all, going through the nonsense and it didn't work. I was like, yeah, maybe I really wasn't supposed to be there. So I got with the man. Path I was on. As I got older, a couple of years ago, I ran into this woman who was my friend. I always liked her, but I was like, no, it's just not right. It's just not right. Yeah, I don't want. And I was already fighting battles with getting my life right, as always, walking right with the Lord, and I didn't want to do it. So I called my friend. I'm like, listen, I'm talking to this girl. And she's like, we're playing around laughing, but it wasn't funny to me because I'm like, I do not want to go to hell.
Yeah, I feel you.
Little sins here and there. This might curse, might drink to get drunk. You know what I mean? But it slept before marriage. But I don't know. This one thing was like in my head. And I think because of church and growing up in a Black church, that's what you're going to go to hell. That's it. And that was so scary for me. Like, damn, I really like this girl. Like, I love her. Like, I can't help the way I feel. Like, you know what I'm saying? When I lay down with her, it ain't the same as other, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different type of connection. And it is. Dealing with someone people because you think that's what the world told you to do. This is the way it's supposed to be, and doing it is way different from someone that you have chemistry with. Your body is, it ain't nothing sexual. You know what I mean? That you feel, and it was like that was big for me. So that's all. I don't really know. I couldn't tell you because I was also raised by a white woman. Yeah, we went to a Black church. Yeah, and my parents didn't play that, so I don't know.
Yeah. There's so many layers, and you're right. The main thing is lack of education, because it's so funny. A lot of the people that I have talked to in the past about this, and my first question is, why don't you like gay people? It's always, in the Bible, it says you're not, But my follow-up question all the time with them is like, but you have kids out of wedlock. And the Bible said, and this is really no shade to nobody. I'm about to make a central point here in a minute. So follow me. So my follow-up question is like, well, you have a kid out of wedlock, or, well, you're living with somebody that you're not married to. All of those things are in the Bible. And they're like, well, it says in the Bible that you guys are abominations. Well, you lie every day. And God says he hates liars. And that liars will do nothing but will go straight to the lake of fire. This is what it's saying. So I'm saying all of this to say, we all sin. We all fall short. We all have things in our lives that we shouldn't be doing, but we do. And personally, for me, this is how I feel. I don't know how other people feel, but this is how I feel. I feel like we put so much energy into gay people. We put so much energy into all of the tangible things, the things that we can see. But what about the things that we do in secret, like the lot? We start strife, and we create dissension within our brotherhoods and sisterhoods. What about the jealousy and the envy and the hating on the next person?
Yeah, that was one of my biggest things too, because I don't understand how, and I'm not gonna point any names or any certain churches, but I grew up with you. I know you. Mm-hmm. We don't have things together, and people say things that not necessarily about you or me, but when somebody acting funny or talking about you, you know what I'm saying, and you're like, oh God, why do I want to feel comfortable telling who I really am or how I feel when I know that this person next to me who's my friend is laughing at someone that they don't even know what I'm fighting right now?
No, that's true too.
And it makes you almost bashful because you want me to accept myself and love myself and speak the truth, but then you don't want to accept my truth. That's not fair. And then you want us to be quiet because it almost makes us a bit disrespectful because we can't tell you how we feel, but we see you over here on Saturday drunk and then coming up in church preaching on Sunday. So which is it? Let's make it make sense here. So I try to stay away from necessarily becoming angry at people or even dealing with it, because how I am is I'm gonna love everybody. Yeah. That's how I am. I'll try to love you through it. And maybe if I pray for you and stay up away from you, then I can protect myself. Because before you know, I'm gonna have 15 other sins that I got to ask forgiveness for, all because you couldn't mind your business and you wanted to bash me.
It's one of the biggest. It's Atlanta and San Francisco. They run neck and neck with the gay population, and you don't have an awareness week. You don't have a seminar. You don't even have a pride event for your campus. It doesn't make sense to me. Many at HBCUs are even taught to denounce their intersectionality and be Black first, then gay second. This belief comes from the common knowledge that because one is gay, they will be discredited. The homophobia on HBCU campuses can be connected to its conservative beliefs that stem from the ideologies from where? The Black church. So just first of all, Morehouse. I have to read y'all for a second. It's so funny to me how out of all these HBCUs, Morehouse is giving me the most conservative when they have one of the highest gayest populations in their campus, and that's out in DL combined. Her many stories about Morehouse, guys. So Morehouse, we need to do better because there's too many of y'all walking among for there not to be no change. It doesn't make sense to me. But that's all. You have to do better. You're a male-only college. The college is based in Georgia, Atlanta, to be specific. You know your community, and you don't even have a day.
Anything to support them or to show the knowledge or acceptance or anything like that. When I see things like that though, I like to think of what we're gonna do to change that. Like I'm even writing something if you want. Like I like writing. I'm good at writing stuff. And you give me a couple pointers, like bullets of what you want to say. I have no problem writing a letter together because it's important. That's what you got to do. Because talking about it and stuff like that, how we're disappointed in that is a fact because you're feeling. So it's a fact that you're disappointed. However, this isn't going to help us. This isn't going to change it. So we got to write something or do something and reach out to people who are in that area or in the field or some sort that we can get our point across so we can save or help one person that's at that school.
Most definitely. And, that's where my trajectory, because, I try these days not to tell people what I'm doing out in these streets, because you already know you got to protect your peace, energy, and things. But that's definitely where I want to eventually branch off into, because it's correct. Like that really threw me for a loop.
Yeah, imagine the people there though, you know what I'm saying? At least we have people like you who care and are concerned about stuff like this, because someone there is probably going to see this and be like, thank you. This man.
And you have to realize these are kids coming right out of high school. They're 18, between the ages of 18 and 21.
Where they going to
when I was 18, first of all, I wasn't even having sex at 18. I didn't have my first sexual experience until I was 19. But at 18, I couldn't even tell you what PrEP was. I couldn't tell you I could not tell you all of these things that had to do with sex to keep me safe from catching anything. So I can only imagine. And we're going to get into it in a minute, y'all. So I want to go too fast. But let's talk about homophobia and the AIDS crisis, because we can't talk about homophobia, transphobia, and all that stuff without bringing in this epidemic that has literally wiped the LGBT community before us, and if we don't get it in check, it's not going to wipe us out, because we have ways and medications nowadays to help us, but it's creating a world where, like I said, 1 in 4 Black gay men, this is gay identifying men, are going to contract HIV in their lifetime. The disproportionately high incidence of HIV and AIDS among African Americans is attributed to homophobic attitudes. Black communities associate the disease exclusively with gay white men and not with members of their own community. Many still view HIV/AIDS as a gay disease. Homophobia is one of the obstacles preventing better treatment for Black people with AIDS. Irene Monroe of Huffington Post wrote, while nearly 600,000 African Americans are living with HIV, and as many as 30,000 newly infected each year, there is still within the Black community 1 in 5 living with HIV and unaware of their infection. And they are disproportionately heterosexual. As long as we continue to think of HIV and AIDS as a gay disease, we will not protect ourselves from this epidemic. Before I even continue on, just because y'all straight, just because y'all are women, because I've even heard it, oh, well, women can't get it either. What? 1 in 5. I did the 1 in 4 for the gay men. 1 in 5 Black people. So this is men, women, no matter what sexuality you identify as. 1 in 5 is living with HIV and unaware of their infection. And most of them are heterosexual. But why is that so? Well, DL culture is one thing. And then we just have people that just don't believe in going to the doctor to get checked after they're having unprotected sex with people. There is a direct link between homophobia and AIDS in the Black community. The more homophobia LGBT people experience, the more likely they are to engage in unprotected anal intercourse. Studies have also found people are more likely to engage in risky sex if they strongly identify themselves with their sexuality and their race. So, no, what was you gonna say?
I see you got some facts going on here. Some informative.
Yeah, and it makes sense. You have to look at it. Take somebody who is gay and has been bashed their whole entire life for being gay. Mind you, they're not getting no research in condoms. They're not getting no research in PrEP because everything gay, they're told, it's disgusting, it's nasty, you're going to hell, you're gross, you're an abomination. So they're not going out to do research on how to properly protect themselves during sex. And then you also have to, and then it also plays into low self-esteem and stuff like that, and other factors as to why the gay community has a lot of risky sex. A lot of it is lack of education. Unprotected anal intercourse may be a mechanism used by some to cope with homophobic attitudes they face within their own communities and society. Some have said unprotected sex increases intimacy with partners and that people seek this closeness when confronted with discriminatory attitudes. Unprotected sex is used as a defense mechanism, though, which queer Black men can deal with harsh realities. We all know that sex is, biblically, sex is a way to make a union one. So with that being said, a lot of gay men use sex, especially unprotected sex. Oh, if I don't use a condom, if he don't have to use a condom, he gonna feel all of this, and he gonna be attached. He gonna be on this like white on rice. This is what we say. This is what we say in few words. We say this. Internalized homophobia and oppression happens to gay, lesbian, bisexual people, and even heterosexuals who have learned and been taught that heterosexuality is the norm and the correct way to be. Hearing and seeing negative depictions of LGBT people can lead to internalize or take in these negative messages. Some LGBT people suffer from mental distress as a result. So this all ties into mental health. A general sense of personal worth and a positive view of your sexual orientation are critical for your mental health. Let me say it again. A general sense of personal worth, meaning you know who the fuck you is and you don't give not one. And a positive view of your sexual orientation. I am gay, I am lesbian, I am bisexual, and I am proud. Are critical for your mental health. You may, like many lesbian, gay, and bisexual people, have hidden your sexual orientation for a long time. Research carried out in Northern Ireland into the needs of young LGBT people in 2003 revealed that the average age for men to realize their sexual orientation was 12 years old. Yet, the average age they actually confided in someone was 17. It is during these formative years when people are coming to understand and acknowledge their sexual orientation that internalized homophobia can really affect a person. And before I even get deep into that, it's true. I was around that age when I knew I liked men. I was around like 12, 13, my middle school age. And then confided in someone. I wouldn't say 17. I was a little older. But the funny thing about it was like I really didn't have to confide in people, because if you really was around me and studied me and So
it's not always that easy for everyone else.
But I know it's definitely not easy for someone else. And you have to realize that gap from that age of 12 to 17, there is so many things going on with you in your day-to-day life, your body, your hormones, and you're starting to mature. And just a lot of things are happening all at the same time. That mental health is real. And if you're a parent that's not creating a open and judge-free environment, this can really hurt your child's growth and what your child 9 times out of 10 will become as an adult. And internalized homophobia manifests itself in varying ways that can be linked to mental health. Examples: denial of your sexual orientation to yourself or others. Attempts to alter or change your sexual orientation. Feeling like you're never good enough. Engaging in obsessive thinking or compulsive behaviors. So you have a child that is just acting out of nowhere. They've been getting straight A's all throughout their school years, but this year they're getting all F's and D's. Sometimes it ain't. We have to start looking deeper, parents. So my last question for you, Tara, is where can we find you? Any social media streets? Give them all your social media things.
Social media. I'm heavy on Facebook. Tara Herzog, TARRAH Herzog, HERZOG. I haven't been up and running much on Tara's Talk. However, I still do my live videos, testimony, things like that, which you're aware of because we have done something before.
Yeah.
That's really my main squeeze. I'm up on there. That's really about it. You know, I got Snapchat and stuff they can find on Facebook, but that's where I'm at.
Okay. So I just want to thank you for coming on and having this conversation. This definitely is so layered and so information heavy that this one conversation is not even going to begin to touch the surface. We need to have more conversations on these topics in broad and great detail, because I believe the education, that's how we inform people and that's how they get their education, and that's how we start to create change. But it all starts with addressing the conversations at hand. So I want to thank you for stopping in. And when we return, I will give my summary and wrap up this amazing episode. This is Eli's Hour of Power. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
And we're back. So let's get into the summary, y'all. Being gay for me was one of the most hardest parts I had to deal with. It wasn't easy. Along the way, I've learned so much, though. I love all my brothers and sisters in this community, but we have real problems. Gays, we want equality and justice for us, but we can't even go to the club and have fun within ourselves. We always have to shade or dim someone's light because we can't possibly think ours can come together and create a bigger light. We're always fighting each other and we wonder why we're always getting slaughtered. Trans lives matter. Gay lives matter. Black lives matter. And once we get all of this, we will never, if we don't get it, y'all, we will never be able to come together and stop the hate in our country. It's up to us to be the change. It's up to us to be one. When we come back, we will have our word of wisdom and wrap this show up. This is Eli's Hour of Power. And we're back. A word of wisdom to keep with y'all for this week. It takes some intelligence and insight to figure out you're gay, and then a tremendous amount of balls to live it and live it proudly. That comes from actor Jason Bateman. Thank you to Tara for stopping in to chat. And thank you all for listening and watching.
If real is the issue, then they all artificial. And I can never dish you, but I will dismiss you straight to your face. Nah, I ain't got no manners, and these bros ain't got no standards. That's why he can't stand you. Always got your hand out for a handout, can't stand on you.